A Poison Tree by William Blake, a presentation by Harry Wheeler. Firstly, let's read the poem. I was angry with my friend, I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe, I told it not, my wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears, and I sunned it with smiles and with soft deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night, till it bore an apple bright, and my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine. And into my garden stole, where the night had veiled the pole. In the morning glad I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree. Let's look at the meaning of each stanza. Stanza 1. The persona is angry with his friend, but he accepts his anger, does something about it, and the anger disappears. However, he is also angry at his enemy and keeps it from him. As a result, his anger grows. In the second stanza, the anger is intense in him. The persona is acting in a deceitful way. He is lying to himself, trying to conceal his anger. In the third stanza, the tree of anger the persona has grown eventually bears fruit, and this apple is extremely attractive to its enemy. The apple lures the enemy in stanza 4, and he sneaks into the persona's garden. There's a star in the sky, the pole star, trying to guide the enemy away from eating the fruit. This star is a representation of the North Star, a star used by sailors to be guided away from danger. The foe ignores this and eats the apple and dies, much to the persona's amusement and happiness. What are the themes of the poem? I believe the three themes are anger, deception, and communication. Anger. This is the basic emotion that controls the events of the poem. This emotion is natural and not wrong in itself, but ways of dealing with it can be bad. This is what the poem deals with, anger worsening and boddying to something. The apple is tempting. Anger can feel good, even if it is a negative emotion. The anger is so intense, we now have a tangible metaphor for it. A physical object is the only thing capable of portraying this feeling. A deception. The persona bottles up his anger, not acknowledging it. In communication, the persona tells us a direct lesson. There are disastrous consequences in not communicating feelings with oneself. It never says in the poem directly that the persona told his friend he was angry, but he did tell his wrath. He accepts it internally, and this helps it go away. What are the various elements of the poem? Firstly, the structure. It has a very simple, but true and perfect AABB rhyming scheme. For example, friend, end, foe, grow, fears, tears, smiles, wiles, night, bright. Makes it seem like a nursery rhyme. And these nursery rhymes normally have simple meaning through a complex story, and this poem certainly does too. The simple language makes it very readable today. Both the meaning and the writing are still relevant, that meaning obviously being let it go, the anger. Each of the four stanzas has two rhyming couplets and an extremely simple, usually monosyllabic, rhythm contrasts with the complex meaning, almost making this meaning more important. The monosyllabic structure creates a stamping effect portraying anger. And as for the audience, it can be read as a cautionary tale to children due to its simple structure, but also as a meaningful, cathartic display of emotion and consequences for adults. There are two voltas in the poem, two turning points. First comes after the first two lines, where the difference in the persona is shown by his unwillingness to acknowledge his anger based on the relationship with the person it is against. He's willing to accept it if it's towards a friend, but not towards an enemy. He wants to let it grow. The second is in the last stanza. The final two lines show his gladness of the death of his foe. Throughout the rest of the poem, he is saying how the anger is bad, and it would have been better not to repress it, but after it truly bears its fruit, he changes his mind and realises he is happy. The story ends on a cliffhanger. We don't know how he eventually feels about the death of his foe, and whether he will change his ways. Has he learnt anything? We don't know. However, there is a moral. We know that anger will continue to grow, and he hasn't done anything about it. Now, what is the main metaphor of this poem? Obviously, the apple is not real, but what does it represent? The apple reflects the fruit in the biblical story of Adam and Eve. Blake was a very religious man, and these religious ideas were very prevalent in the poem. Wrath is sinful. The eating of the apple in the Garden of Eden was sinful. And the apple reflects the ripening of emotion. The apple is a common fruit, and anger is a common emotion. So if we let them grow for too long, they become beautiful on the outside, but anger feels good, but we eventually feel bad about it afterwards. Now the language. The repetition of and at the beginning of every line adds to the intensity. The anger is growing. In the first stanza, the only non-monosyllabic word is angry. This makes it stand out. It shows it is an important theme for the poem. What's the message? Don't suppress negative feelings. If we have negative feelings like anger, we must resolve this issue with whoever the causes of these feelings. Communication is important. Blake warns against remaining silent, as suppressed emotion is dangerous. The tree is just not a form of anti-catharsis for the person owner, and it also has a destructive effect not just on him. What are the moral values that the poem represents? Truthfulness, forgiveness, rationality, and moderation. Thank you.